In week 12 of Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way, there is a quote that goes something like this. Creativity, like human life itself, begins in darkness. We need to acknowledge this. All too often we think only in terms of light. And then the light bulb went on, and I got it. It is true that insights may come to us as flashes. It is true that some of these flashes may be blinding. It is, however, also true that such bright ideas are preceded by a gestation period that is interior, murky, and completely necessary.
Hi, I'm Lucy, and about 19 weeks ago I started doing Julia Cameron's The Artist's Way. I was, about 1 year postpartum. I guess my son was just over 1 year old, and I started to realise that where I thought I would be by that point, or I guess the sense of myself and my routine and my creativity and all of those things, where I thought that would be was not where I was at, and that traditional postpartum period was passing me by, and I didn't feel nourished. I didn't feel close to myself. I didn't feel even really in touch with myself and what was going on, and not at all with my creativity. And creativity has always been that kind of nourishing, connecting force for me. It's always been a way that I've used to figure out what is going on in my life and how I feel about that certain thing. So I decided that actually doing this process and having this kind of creative journey again, but in my new reality, with this new responsibility, with this new experience, with this new sense of self, with this new kind of knowledge and connection and relationship and all of that stuff that I had, as a way to kind of see if I could figure out where I sat in all of that, and also where I guess my creativity sat in all of that. And so I'm now in week 12. Well, actually, I'm at the end of week 12, and I'm kind of recording this a little bit belatedly. And it's been really interesting to kind of finish that journey, and recognize actually it's just the start. Obviously, it's just the start with all of these things. You think you get to a certain place, and you do get to a certain place, but then you realize, like, actually, you've got a whole lot longer to go. I'm sorry about the background noise. It's very warm, and I have a window open, but I can hear a lot of bikes and cars, so I guess that's what it is to live in the center of the city. Hopefully you can't hear them too much. So I guess rewinding back to week 12 and where we are now, there's a few things that I noticed from week 12, and really for me, I've wanted to share that quote at the beginning because it highlights how much our creativity and our relationship to creativity and our experience of creativity, how similar they are to motherhood, how much there is in common between this act of creating work and this role of nurturing a child. Because actually, I guess the book positions it as really a nurturing of self, a nurturing of your creative being. And that is how the work comes, and that is how you find flow, and that is how you build a creative practice. And this week, there's two things that I think she really shares, or her positioning on how you get to that. And one is a sense of trust in yourself, trusting the process, trusting the mystery, all of that. And then the other one is kind of how we maintain that condition, to help us create. How do we maintain the things that we need to do to help us produce creative work, to have a creative practice, to be in that creative flow as often as we can, in a way that helps us build the things we want to build and make the things we want to make, and in general live our life in a way that supports and nourishes ourselves and our creativity. So I think this topic of trust and doubt, the reason it resonated a lot with me was actually, I think as a mother, that finding faith in yourself as a mother, especially as a first-time mother, is a complex, messy ground, because it's one of those things that we all agree is an important job, right? We'll all say, okay, that like a mother plays a really important role in a child's life. You know, it's one of the most important things that you can do in your life. People have all of these kind of sayings, but then actually it's not valued in the sense of having a salary. It's not valued in the sense mostly of having a huge support network or a whole load of free resources, for example. And I don't know, it dawned on me that that building of faith in yourself in a world which everybody says is important but doesn't really value it, but all has an opinion which they'll happily share, because God forbid that you do something that they don't believe is the right way to raise a child, that could potentially damage your child forever. And there you then sit with the anxiety and the fear and the doubt in yourself whilst you're figuring it all out, because you too are a baby in a sense in this moment, right? You're like a baby mother. You know, this is your first time mothering and figuring it all out. And she talks a lot about developing this sense of faith in terms of kind of just trusting yourself, and then the trust will come. Like, trust the, like, almost have to blanket trust, like blanket have the faith, and maybe practice seeing that and witnessing that as a way of believing that you have faith. And she has in have faith in yourself. She has a couple of quotes which I'll find and put up, but they're kind of these affirmations of I trust myself, or I have faith in myself in the journey. And to be honest, I was like, you can just rinse and repeat those for motherhood as much as you can for creativity. You don't need, they're a useful thing to remember, right? That actually trying to get back to this place where we have faith, we trust our instincts, that we know what is right and helpful for our child and what they need and want, that we kind of trust ourselves to figure it out, to learn as they're learning, to not make such huge mistakes that it's going to be awful forever, that actually we will make these mistakes and our child will be resilient as a result, and we will be resilient as a result. And actually that's all part of the journey of raising a child, and part of the choice you make, I think, when you have one. So that building of faith, I think, is hugely important, and it's been a nice reminder that that kind of exists, and we've been practicing it in the world of creativity, right? We've been practicing all of this stuff with our creative practice. Like, is there? We've been doing it maybe for years if we have a strong creative practice that we've held up, right? That, and we can use those resources to actually help us mother. And this was the first time that really dawned on me, not that creativity was going to be a way to help me kind of reconnect with myself and, I guess, pull myself out of the motherhood hole. I don't know if that's the right thing to say, but hopefully it makes sense. But then it kind of dawned on me actually that it was also a resource and tool that I could use to help me be I don't want to say a better mother, but help me find my way as a mother, not just help me through my motherhood find my way as myself. I'm not sure that 100% makes sense, but if you get it, let me know, because I think there's something in there. So that is the first kind of part of week 12. And then the second part of week 12 for me really was this, she talks about doing these exercises and recognizing kind of what she calls escape velocity, and how you need to push through these hurdles, especially the final hurdles that appear when you're moving forward with momentum, and things that can drag you back, because quite often that happens just as you're kind of really building. And it dawned on me that, again, like, really, yes, those are interesting and important points, but what she's trying to get to is how, through this journey, what have you learned about yourself and your creativity, and how are you going to nourish that? How are you going to build a creative practice from that space? And personally, I think that's something I'm still really figuring out. Yeah, she leaves or ends the chapter with this phrase, life is meant to be an artist's date. And I think recognizing that actually we can create momentum through small actions, that we can find support in a small group of trusted people, that and being kind of thoughtful about who we share stuff with and who we allow to be our cheerleaders, and how we cheerlead for ourselves, and how we set all of those habits up that help us to create, to nourish, to restore. Because it seems like a lot of what she's saying throughout the book is that a creative practice comes from a place of rest. It comes from a place of care. It comes from a place of self-nourishment. And I think we need those reminders as mothers that we're allowed to do that we have permission to do that, because not only does it make us better artists, better creatives, or allow our creative work to flow, but I think it helps us as mothers. It helps us to show up as the mother that we want to be, because really that's all this is about, right? It's not, there is no better mother, right? It's just what do we need for ourselves, and how do we support ourselves to show up how we would like to for our child. So this week I focused a lot on journaling on that question of like, how do I maintain a creative practice? How do I find trust in myself? Who supports that trust in myself? Who could that group of people be? And then I spent some time going on an artist date, and this artist date this week for me was to do some collaging, which is something like I'm trying to be a beginner again. I've decided I want to start something new, and I guess that's something that's come off the back of this, is the recognition that I'm not sure what that big project is for me, and right now I think I want to be a beginner in something, just to play and have fun and not put the pressure on creativity to need to be a money earner in the same way, but more to be a gift and a joy and a hobby and a practice, and see if through building a practice in something as a beginner I can help to feed that into the practice of my creativity and artistry that is more commercially driven, or that is more part of my career, I guess. So what is next? I guess thank you for being part of this journey. It has been wonderful to have this experience. I get the sense that it is ground that I will keep circling back on. At the end of the book, she mentions a lot this idea that you kind of are going up a mountain in a spiral, and that you'll keep recovering this same ground over and over again. And I feel like that is very much the case of my experience, and it has been such a pleasure to do this with you all. So thank you for watching, thank you for commenting. It's been so nice to see you there and do this together, and I think feel like there is momentum in that we're not doing this alone. So thank you so much for doing this with me, and I would love to hear how your process is going, what takeaways you've had. So please keep in contact. This is Creative Mums Club, like we're gonna figure this all out together. And yeah, I think I recognize that this is the start of a bit of a journey for me of figuring out that intertwining of motherhood and creativity, and how we can start to explore that space, how we can explore how creativity can nourish us and support us and help us connect to ourselves and connect to our role as mothers and to connect to each other. And also how we can figure out maintaining a creative practice when we have a huge amount of demands, a huge amount of expectations on us, and also perhaps a lack of energy and a lack of all those resources that we think we need. So yeah, I will share a video soon with my takeaways from the whole journey, like the things, the cool things I think I'd learned. But I'm so excited for what's next and for sharing it. And so thank you for coming along on the journey. I will see you soon.